The morning sun bled across the horizon in bands of copper and gold, baking the stone porch of Adam Keller's cabin and painting the twisted purple fruit trees in harsh relief against the desert plateau. Adam sat with his shoulders hunched, a steaming mug of bitter coffee cradled in his scarred hands, savoring the rare taste of something from Earth, the one luxury he'd fought to keep when he carved out this life of exile on Terrace Prime. 7 years since he'd last seen Earth, and 15 since the Federation had ground him into a weapon, and he'd chosen this solitude to make the silence bearable. Beside him, Rex, his loyal German shepherd, sprawled with his head on his paws, eyes sharp even in rest. Adam muttered a dry joke about another quiet day in paradise, but the dog's ears pricked suddenly, his body shifting with the alertness that had saved Adam's life more than once in the past. The growl that rolled from Rex's throat was low and urgent. Adam was on his feet in an instant, coffee forgotten, instincts honed by years of combat flaring back to life. When Rex bolted down the rocky trail toward the canyon, Adam's hand was already closing on the blaster at his hip as he sprinted after him, boots grinding dust and gravel into the earth. The sound reached him before the sight did a high, terrified cry that didn't belong to any animal. Adam's heart stuttered, then steadied into a soldier's focus as he rounded the bend and saw the source. The swallowing pit, as the locals called it, stretched like a treacherous pool of liquid glass in the canyon floor, and in the middle of it clung a child, her blue skin luminous even through the clinging sand. She was already half submerged, fingers locked around a frayed rope tied desperately to a rotten tree stump that leaned toward collapse. The sight of her silver-braided hair, plastered with sand, and her wide green eyes fixed on him with a mixture of terror and hope, hit Adam like a blow. He didn't hesitate. He shrugged out of his overshirt, looped it around his waist, tied the other end to a boulder, and called to her in the calm voice he used to use on battlefield medevacs. "Don't struggle, little one. I'm coming to get you. Just hold on to me." Rex barked once, circling, straining forward, but holding at Adam's command. Adam moved carefully across the surface, spreading his weight, feeling the unstable ground shift beneath each step. His pulse stayed steady, his breaths measured, as though he were back crossing mine-laden ground during his Federation days. When he reached her, the girl was trembling violently, her orange tunic soaked and streaked with sand. "Put your arms around my neck," he ordered gently. She obeyed without a word, clinging to him with desperate strength. She weighed nothing, fragile as a bird, but the pit fought him every step back. His muscles strained, the rope cutting at his waist as he dragged them both toward solid ground. Inch by inch, he fought the sucking pull until at last they broke free, tumbling together onto hard-packed earth. The girl lay gasping, chest heaving, her pale glow dimmed by exhaustion. Rex bounded forward, tail wagging, licking at her small hands until a weak giggle escaped her lips, a sound startlingly innocent in the middle of the wasteland. Adam crouched beside her, brushing sand from her hair. "You're safe now. What's your name? What were you doing out here?" She looked up at him with eyes that were far too large for her small face. "I am Adara," she whispered. "I wanted to see the crystal flowers. Mother says the pits are forbidden." Adam followed her gesture to the edge of the canyon, where fragile, translucent blooms shimmered faintly in the light. He exhaled sharply. "Curiosity's going to get you killed out here. Your mother's right." Her head ducked, guilt written in every line of her small frame. Adara's gaze shifted nervously toward the valley, and she scrambled to her feet. "They will be looking for me," she said in a rush, voice trembling again, though this time from fear of being caught. Before Adam could offer to escort her back, she darted away with surprising speed, disappearing into the scrub brush. Rex started after her, but stopped at Adam's command, though his ears twitched in protest. Adam stood in silence for a long moment, the desert wind tugging at his shirt, the heat already pressing down. He ran a hand through his hair, unsettled in a way he hadn't felt in years. He had saved lives before, countless on the battlefield, but this was different. This was a child, alien or not, and for the first time in his years of chosen exile, his solitude felt fragile, as though a single act of compassion had cracked it wide open. He turned back toward the cabin with Rex at his side, muttering under his breath. Guess life out here just got a lot more complicated. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of dust and the faint sweetness of the purple fruit trees in bloom. When Adam Keller set aside the pulse rifle he'd been cleaning on his porch, Rex dozed at his feet, tail occasionally twitching in some canine dream. But the sudden prickle in the dog's ears brought Adam's own senses alive. Rex stood, posture rigid, gaze fixed down the valley. Adam followed his line of sight, shading his eyes against the glare of the sun. At first, he thought the shimmering haze on the horizon was just heat. But then it resolved into movement, many figures, moving with deliberate precision, their dark armor glinting with light as they ascended the slope toward his cabin. Adam's gut tightened. They were Navari, no doubt about it. He counted at least 20 warriors, all women from their stature and gait, each step synchronized with the discipline of soldiers. They were not wandering hunters or traders. This was a formal procession. For a man who had spent years evading entanglements, their advance was as subtle as a war horn. Adam rose to his full height, 6'3" and broad from years of hard labor, and turned for the cabin door. He did not run. Running wasn't his style, and besides, where would he go? This was Navari land. He lived here by their treaty. If they wanted him gone, he'd be gone. Instead, he reached for his sand-colored tactical armor, dusting it off as he strapped it across his shoulders and forearms, not in challenge, but in respect. Among warriors, formality mattered. His sidearm he holstered at his thigh, more habit than threat. And when he emerged again into the sunlight, he stood straight-backed in the clearing, Rex seated obediently at his side, tail thumping once against the ground, the formation of warriors fanned into a crescent, their armor more elegant than heavy, forged in flowing patterns that mirrored the natural curves of their bodies. Each carried a staff that Adam knew could bloom into an energy spear with the flick of a switch. From their center stepped a taller figure, and Adam's instincts told him instantly this was their leader. She did not wear a helmet, unlike the rest, and her face caught the sun. High cheekbones, green almond-shaped eyes, and silver hair braided into elaborate patterns, threaded with metallic beads that chimed with her movements. Beside her stood a small figure in a white tunic, eyes downcast but unmistakable. Adara, the child he'd pulled from the swallowing pit. "I am Liana, chief of the Starlight clan," the leader announced, her voice melodic yet commanding. "You are the human called Adam Keller." It was not a question. Adam inclined his head slightly, his soldier's training guiding him. "I am." Liana's gaze never wavered. "You saved my daughter from the swallowing pit." Again, not a question. Adam suppressed the urge to shrug. Anyone would have done the same. A murmur rippled among the warriors, the sound of disbelief or perhaps surprise, and Liana's expression softened only enough to reveal curiosity. No, human. Not anyone would risk themselves for a child not of their kind, especially one who chooses solitude so fiercely. Her words landed heavier than he expected, a reminder that his cabin, his habits, his every solitary choice had been noted. They had been watching him. Adara stepped forward, carrying a small wooden box with trembling hands. She lifted it toward him, glancing up once with shy gratitude before returning her gaze to the ground. Liana gestured to her. "My daughter brings you a gift of gratitude." It is our way. Adam accepted the box carefully, aware of the weight of the moment. Inside lay a bracelet, woven from strands of silver star metal, set with small heart gems that pulsed faintly with inner light, alive with some resonance he couldn't name. It is beautiful, Adam said honestly, but unnecessary. Liana's tone sharpened, though not unkind. It is necessary to us. A life debt must be acknowledged. This bracelet marks you as friend of the Starlight Clan. You may travel our lands freely and call upon us in need. He slipped the bracelet onto his wrist, and to his surprise, the metal warmed instantly to his skin, almost alive. Rex chose that moment to step forward and nuzzle at her hand, tail wagging. The girl giggled, the sound startling in its sweetness after the tension, and stroked his fur. Your companion is brave, Liana observed, her eyes flicking to Rex. He sensed my daughter's danger before you did. Adam allowed himself a wry smile. He's got better instincts than I do. Liana's gaze lingered on him, measuring, unreadable, and then softened by a fraction. I doubt that, Adam Keller. Your eyes see much. The way she said his name held weight, a subtle shift he could not ignore. Liana straightened, her presence radiating authority once more. We would have you join us for the moonrise feast tonight. It honors the changing of seasons, and it would be an appropriate time to formally recognize your deed. Adam hesitated. Entanglements were exactly what he had avoided, and yet something in her voice, command and invitation woven together, left little room for refusal. He inclined his head. Then I accept. Satisfaction flickered in her eyes. An escort will arrive at sunset. Wear your warrior's attire, as you do now. My people respect strength. With that, she turned, her warriors falling into formation around her, the metallic beads in her hair chiming softly as she strode away. Adam stood in the clearing long after the procession had vanished into the valley, the weight of the bracelet warm on his wrist, the echo of Liana's eyes fixed in his memory. He glanced down at Rex, who tilted his head with quiet expectancy. What do you think, boy? Just a formal thank you, or something more? The dog thumped his tail once, gaze still fixed on the path the Navari had taken. Adam exhaled slowly. Yeah, that's what I thought. For the first time in years, the isolation he had built so carefully felt as fragile as sand underfoot, shifting beneath a single choice. Tonight, under 3 rising moons, he would walk into their world, and nothing would be the same again. The sun had just dipped behind the jagged ridges when Adam found himself flanked by 2 Navari warriors. Siren and Kira, their silver-plated armor glimmering like water in the dying light. They moved without wasted motion, silent but purposeful, guiding him down paths he'd never known existed, weaving between craggy outcrops and twisting ravines that would have concealed a battalion. Rex trotted close to Adam's side, occasionally glancing up at his master as if to check his resolve. Adam wore his tactical armor again, plates dulled by desert dust, but still carrying the weight of battles past. And each step reminded him of a time when he walked into gatherings where life and death decisions hung in the air. Only this time he wasn't wearing Federation colors. He was walking into the heart of a people he barely understood. When the canyon walls opened into a hidden valley, the sight stopped him cold. The settlement seemed to have grown out of the stone itself, dwellings carved into cliff faces and covered in bioluminescent vines that pulsed gently, casting the valley in a living blue glow. Pathways were lit by crystal shards planted like torches, their light shifting with the rhythm of unseen energies. At the center of it all, in a wide circular clearing, hundreds of Navari had gathered around a towering bonfire that blazed not with ordinary flame, but with a brilliant purple fire that seemed to consume no wood, its smoke spiraling upward like incense. The heart fire, Siren murmured with reverence. It burns only on sacred nights. Every eye turned as Adam entered the clearing, whispers moving through the crowd like wind. He was keenly aware of the alien grace surrounding him, blue skin gleaming, silver hair catching the moonlight, robes and armor adorned with swirls that reflected 3 pale moons now cresting the horizon. Rex drew nearly as much attention, children craning their necks to catch a glimpse of the strange furred beast, giggling when he wagged his tail. And then she appeared, Lyanna, no longer clad in war-etched armor, but in flowing silver robes that shimmered with each step, painted markings glowing faintly on her arms and face, reflecting the phosphorescent fire. She was radiant, commanding the space effortlessly. Yet when her green eyes found Adam, her gaze softened almost imperceptibly. "Adam Keller," she greeted him, her voice carrying over the hush of the crowd. "You honor us with your presence." He inclined his head, acutely aware of how rough-hewn he must look compared to her elegance. "The honor is mine." Her eyes traveled over his armor and lingered with approval. "You came as a warrior. Good." She gestured for him to follow her to a raised platform where other elders sat in solemn silence. "There are matters to discuss," she said quietly as they walked, "but tonight we celebrate. It is our way." The feast began with ceremonial offerings, carved bowls of fruit that burst with nectar, roasted cuts of meat seasoned with unfamiliar herbs, and a fermented drink that burned slightly, but left Adam with a warmth that loosened the edges of his caution. Lyanna sat beside him, close enough that the cinnamon and ozone scent of her skin reached him. And when she leaned nearer to explain the meanings of certain rituals, the honoring of ancestors, the raising of crystal shards in salute, her words brushed against his ear in a way that felt more deliberate than necessity. He noticed her warriors exchanging discreet glances at the way their chief lingered near him, but she ignored them. "Among our people," she said when he remarked on the scrutiny, "it is uncommon for a chief to show such attention to an outsider." He met her eyes. "Is that what this is? Attention?" Her lips curved faintly. "Would that displease you?" Before he could reply, drums thundered deep and resonant, and the crowd surged to its feet. In perfect unison, the warriors formed a circle, their movements fluid and powerful, the story of their people written in every sweeping motion. "The moonrise dance," Lyanna explained, rising. "It honors the cycle of life and the bonds between us." The first of the 3 moons crested higher, flooding the valley with silver light, and the tempo quickened. One by one, warriors stepped from the circle and chose partners from the crowd. Adam realized what it meant an instant before Lyanna turned to him, hand extended. "Will you join me, Adam Keller?" The hush that fell was absolute. He felt the weight of every gaze, the disbelief that their chief had chosen a human. He hesitated only a heartbeat before taking her hand, cool against his calloused palm. "I don't know your steps," he admitted. "The body knows what the mind does not," she answered softly. "Trust it." And so he did. She guided him through the first turns, their movements slow, testing, then quickening with the rhythm of the drums. To his surprise, it came naturally, the flow of weight, the precision, the controlled strength. It was like combat drills transformed into something beautiful. And with each motion their bodies drew closer, until her hand brushed his neck, and a spark that had nothing to do with static jolted through him. "The people are watching," he murmured, breath low. "Let them," she replied, her eyes never leaving his. "They should see that strength and honor exist beyond our kind." As the drums rose to crescendo, she pressed her forehead to his, a gesture intimate and binding, and the crowd erupted in approving calls. Adam felt the shift in the air, the acknowledgement of something that had crossed a line from tolerance to acceptance. And in that moment, Lyanna leaned closer, her voice barely audible over the roar. "There is a threat to my people, Adam. The Vix have been seen in our territory." The sudden gravity jarred him, even as his body moved with hers. "Raiders," he said, his tone grim. She tightened her hand on his shoulder. "Tomorrow I will ask for your help as a chief. Tonight I ask as a woman who sees a man worthy." The drums ended. The dance concluded, but the fire that had begun between them showed no signs of fading. Adam woke at dawn to the sound of urgent voices echoing through the canyon settlement. The joyous warmth of the feast replaced by an edge of dread. He had not slept much, though the hours he had spent in the private chamber with Liana had left his mind charged and his heart conflicted. The intimacy of the night lingered, the cool press of her skin, the way her pupils' luminescence dimmed when vulnerable, the trust exchanged in whispers beneath stone walls. But that fragile space vanished the instant Siren's sharp knock rattled the chamber doors and a voice rang out. Tight with urgency, "Chief Liana, scouts have returned. Vic's ships approach." In a heartbeat, Liana's softness hardened into the commander Adam had first seen. Her face painted in authority, movement swift and efficient as she donned her armor. Adam was already buckling his own tactical plates into place, his soldiers' reflexes coming alive like a machine reawakening. Outside, the settlement buzzed with activity. Navari warriors formed lines, voices carrying orders, weapons lit with the glow of heart gems embedded in their shafts. Liana strode into the center of it all, her silver armor gleaming beneath the morning light, and for a moment Adam watched her with something deeper than admiration, something closer to recognition. She belonged here, in the heart of command, yet when her eyes flicked to him, a spark lingered, as if his presence anchored her. A scout approached breathlessly, kneeling low. 3 ships descending along the northern ridge. They will breach our territory by midday. Another warrior interjected grimly. The dawn patrol has not returned. Adara was with them. Adam's stomach dropped. He scanned the gathered faces and did not see the child's wide green eyes, the silver braid bouncing with youthful defiance. Liana's composure faltered for just a heartbeat, her hand tightening on the hilt of her spear, her eyes flashing with maternal fear beneath her steel mask of leadership. Adam stepped forward without hesitation. "Then we don't have time to waste. We find your daughter, bring back the patrol, and prepare to hold the ridge." Liana turned sharply to him, her instincts warring between keeping command and chasing her child. "You are not of us," she said, voice low and taut. "Why risk this?" Adam met her gaze evenly. "Because no soldier leaves a child behind. I promised I'd keep her safe." The words hung between them, a vow forged in the same steel as the scars across his body. Minutes later, Adam stood over the War Council's stone table, a 3-dimensional map of the region projected in shifting blue lines. He studied it with the detached clarity of a tactician. "They want your heart gems. This is a raid, not a siege. That means speed and shock, not occupation." He traced his finger across narrow ridgelines. "Your warriors know the terrain, use it. Funnel them here, here, and here. Force them into choke points where numbers don't matter. Lay ambushes. Buy us time." The council murmured approval, glancing between Adam and Liana. She watched him with an unreadable expression, as though she saw him suddenly not as a guest, but as an extension of her command. "Adara," Liana pressed, her voice betraying the fracture beneath her armor. Adam looked down at Rex, who sat at his heel, ears twitching, muscles tight with anticipation. He scratched the dog's head. "He can track her. I'll take Siren and Kira, find the patrol, bring them and your daughter back. You stay here. Your people need their chief." Her jaw clenched, pride and fear colliding. "And if you fail?" Adam tightened the strap on his rifle. "And I fail trying. But I won't. I keep my promises." Their eyes locked, and in the unspoken silence was something deeper than trust, It was a thread of fate, tying them across species, across past and present. Finally, she inclined her head. Take them. And Adam? She pressed something small into his palm, closing his fingers over it. When he opened them, a heart gem, no larger than his thumb, pulsed softly, thrumming like a heartbeat. It is attuned to Adara. It will grow warmer as you near her. Few outside our kind have ever touched one. It responds to you because the ancestors allow it. He slipped it over his neck, feeling the warmth bloom against his chest. Strange yet grounding dot with Siren and Kira at his side, Adam left the settlement at speed. Rex bounding ahead, nose already working. The desert gave way to canyons carved in labyrinthine twists, each shadowed ridge hiding dangers unseen. The heart gem at his chest pulsed with growing heat, like a compass pulling him toward the girl. Siren moved like a shadow, silent and sharp-eyed, while Kira's spear glowed faintly, her muttered prayers drifting into the wind. Adam led them with a soldier's pace, efficient and steady, his mind split between strategy and the gnawing urgency of paternal promise. Every sound made Rex stiffen. Every flicker of movement in the rocks set Adam's hand twitching toward his blaster dot by midday. The gem throbbed hot against his chest. Rex growled low, hackles bristling, as they crept up a ridge. Below, the crystal caves stretched, jagged openings exhaling faint glimmers of blue and green light. A mechanical roar rumbled from within, a sound out of place in such sacred ground. Adam's stomach hardened. Mining equipment. They were already drilling. And somewhere inside, Adara's small heat signature flickered on his scanner, isolated and afraid. He crouched low, heart pounding, the weight of promise anchoring him. She's in there, he whispered. The Navari warriors nodded grimly. Then we move, Adam said, rising into the shadow of stone. And we don't leave without her. The air inside the canyon was alive with tremors, each low rumble shaking dust loose from the cliffs and setting the crystal formations humming with eerie resonance. Adam moved like a shadow at the front of the small team, pulse rifle angled low, eyes scanning every ridge and fissure for signs of movement. Rex stayed close, his growl constant now, sensing danger in every vibration. The heart gem against Adam's chest throbbed with warmth, pulsing in time with his quickening heartbeat, guiding him deeper into the labyrinth of stone toward Adara. Siren and Kira flanked him, their movements fluid, weapons already lit with the inner glow of heart gem shards. The deeper they went, the louder the mechanical roar became, until Adam saw it a massive mining rig, black and angular, chewing into the walls of the crystal caves with brutal efficiency. Vic's soldiers in sleek, light-absorbing armor moved in disciplined squads around the machine, sonic disruptors gleaming in their six-fingered hands. The Navari warriors froze in fury, their eyes reflecting the glow of the desecrated caves, but Adam's hand lifted, palm closed. "Not yet," he whispered. First, the girl. Rex's nose twitched sharply. Then he bounded toward a narrow fissure in the canyon wall, whining softly. Adam slipped off his pack and sent a reconnaissance drone through the crack. The feed on his wrist display showed a vast inner cavern, crystals stretching from floor to ceiling, glowing blue and green as if alive, and there, tucked behind one of them, a small heat signature trembled. Adara. She's in there, Adam confirmed. Alive. He glanced at Siren and Kira. Circle to the main entrance, find the Dawn Patrol, buy us time. Rex and I will get the girl out. Siren hesitated, but Kira touched her arm. The human has steel in his voice, she said quietly. Trust him. With that, the two melted into the shadows, their armor catching no light as they vanished. Adam and Rex crawled through the fissure, the passage scraping his shoulders until he emerged into the cavern proper. The sight stole his breath. The crystals towered like cathedral pillars, thrumming with light, their glow pulsing in rhythm with the gem around his neck. Adara's small figure darted from hiding as Rex barked softly, and she flung herself into Adam's arms. "They took the dawn patrol," she whispered, eyes wide with fear. I hid. "They have a machine that makes the caves cry." As if on cue, another tremor ripped through the chamber, cracks spider-webbing across the ceiling, crystal light flickering in what almost felt like pain. Adam steadied her. "You did good. Now we move." She nodded, determination hardening her young features, and led him toward an underground pool that shimmered like liquid starlight. "The sacred pool," she explained. "It connects to the forest. Mother showed me once." Adam stripped off his heavier plates, slung his rifle, and squeezed her hand. "Then we swim." They emerged gasping in a forest hollow, purple leaf trees swaying overhead, Rex shaking himself dry after finding his own narrow passage out. But celebration died quickly. 100 yards ahead, a Vix transport hovered above the ground, 6 black-armored guards standing watch over 5 bound Navari warriors, the missing dawn patrol. Adara's face set grimly. "We must help them." Adam studied the field, weighing his odds. Outnumbered, outgunned, but he had surprise, and something the Vix hadn't accounted for. A Navari child with courage. "Can you make the stones sing?" he asked her. She blinked and placed her hand against a nearby outcrop. Low, haunting tones began to rise from the rock, building into a pulse that echoed through the forest. "Good girl," Adam murmured. "Now wait for my signal." As the eerie melody filled the air, 4 of the Vix guards turned toward it, weapons raised. Adam struck. 3 quick bursts dropped the nearest soldiers, and before the others could react, the bound Navari warriors surged into motion, using their feet to kick fallen weapons within reach. The skirmish was fast, brutal, and when the dust cleared, the guards lay dead or unconscious, the patrol freed. Thala, their leader, clapped Adam on the shoulder with fierce respect. "The chief chose well," she said. Adam gave a sharp nod. "We're not done yet. The Vix are coming in force." Together they cut through the forest, freed warriors carrying stolen disruptors, Adara clutching Rex's fur as she ran. The sound of battle rose before them, energy fire crackling, spears clashing, war cries echoing. From a ridge they saw it, the Navari settlement under siege, Vix lines tightening around the Heartfire, Liana at the center, her silver armor blazing as she fought like the embodiment of her people's spirit. Adam's chest tightened at the sight of her holding the line. He turned to Thala and the patrol. "We hit their flank, hard and fast. Create an opening. Drive them back to their ships." The warriors nodded fiercely, ready. Adara's small voice rose behind him. "Mother must know about the caves." Adam knelt, cupping her face. "You'll tell her yourself. Stay with Rex until I call you in." When Adam charged, it was with the fury of a man who had run from war, only to find something worth fighting for again. His rifle thundered, Navari spears flashed, and the enemy line buckled under the sudden assault. The settlement erupted with renewed cries of defiance. Amid the chaos, Liana's eyes found Adam across the battlefield, widening first in shock, and narrowing into a look of fierce joy. Adara broke cover, running into her mother's arms, and for a heartbeat the war fell away as Liana clutched her daughter safe. Then her gaze locked back on Adam. He read the message in her eyes as clearly as a command. "This isn't over." "We strike back together." As the Vix regrouped, Adam and Liana fell side by side behind a barricade, breathless, weapons ready. "They're not just raiding," Adam shouted over the din. "They're mining the caves. They'll strip you of your heart gems and your history." Liana's jaw clenched. "Without the gems, we cannot shield our people." Adam's eyes flicked toward the largest Vix ship hovering above the canyon, its sleek lines thrumming with command signals. Then we take out their brain. Kill that ship, their ground forces scatter. Liana's eyes flashed. And how? Adam's lips curved grimly. With a little Federation ingenuity and one of your gems. She searched his face, then nodded once, decisively. Then to the armory. We fight as one. And as they sprinted through the embattled settlement, her hand brushed his, brief but deliberate, their fingers intertwining in the chaos. For Adam, the soldier who had once sought only silence, that single touch was louder than any battle cry, an unspoken vow that whatever came next, they would face it together. The Navari armory was carved deep into the cliff face, its doors sealed by slabs of polished stone, and etched with patterns that seemed to pulse faintly with inner light. Liana led Adam inside at a run, the noise of battle echoing like thunder behind them. Within, the chamber shimmered with a blend of the ancient and the advanced rows of spears whose tips flickered with blue fire. Shields hammered from silver metal that glowed with threads of embedded crystal. Bows strung with strands that sang when plucked. At the heart of the chamber rested a collection of heart gems, some small and delicate, others massive and radiant, glowing with the memories of generations. The sight made Adam's breath catch. He'd seen enough technology to last 3 lifetimes, but nothing like this power in history fused into something alive. Liana's hand lingered over the largest gem, her expression reverent. This one has sung for 100 generations. If we give it to you and it breaks, it won't, Adam cut in, pulling the signal disruptor from his tactical pack. But if we don't use it, your people won't survive to keep singing. As his fingers brushed the gem, the chamber erupted in light. The stone pulsed violently, thrumming with a rhythm that matched his heartbeat, flooding his veins with warmth. Liana stared, her eyes wide. It responds to you as though you are Navari. Adam felt the vibration ripple up his arm, and for a second, images flickered at the edges of his vision shadows of faces. Voices whispering in a tongue not his own, fragments of a memory that wasn't his. He clenched his jaw, fighting the disorientation. Later, he rasped. We'll figure it out later. With practiced speed, he rigged the gem into the disruptor's core, the device vibrating dangerously as its power spiked. This'll scramble their command protocols, maybe even drop their shields. But we'll need to get it close. Liana's lips curved in a fierce smile. Then we go to their ship. They assembled a strike team 5 of her best, including Thala, the newly freed Dawn patrol leader, her eyes blazing with vengeance. Adara was left in the Elder's care, clinging to Rex's fur until Adam knelt and pressed his forehead briefly to hers in the Navari way. I'll be back, he promised, his voice steady even as the girl's eyes shone with fear. Bring them home, she whispered, echoing the words of countless children to countless soldiers. The plan was audacious borderline madness. A captured Vix transport, disguised with stolen codes, piloted straight toward the command ship that hovered like a black vulture over the canyon. The docking clamps latched with a metallic thud, and Adam's pulse hammered as the strike team fanned out behind him. The corridors of the enemy vessel were harsh and sterile, lit by strips of cold light that seemed to swallow sound. At first they met little resistance. The Vix forces were mostly deployed below, but the alarm came eventually, shrieking through the halls, and soon the air blazed with energy fire. Thala and 2 warriors broke off to hold the choke point, blades and spears flashing, their defiance buying Adam and Liana the seconds they needed to reach the command deck. The doors slid open with a hiss, revealing a skeletal crew and one towering commander whose armor bore ornate markings that shimmered like oil. You dare defy the Vix, he snarled, his voice a rasping metallic growl. The heart gems will be ours, and your kind human and Navari alike will serve or perish. Adam didn't waste time trading words. His rifle roared, dropping 2 technicians in bursts of blue fire, while Liana leapt like lightning, her spear piercing another through the chest. The commander activated a personal shield, sparks dancing as Adam's shots ricocheted harmlessly. The Vix raised his disruptor, firing a blast that grazed Adam's shoulder, burning hot across the armor. Pain seared through him, but he pushed forward, slamming the heart gem-powered device against the shield. Light exploded, the gem pulsing so bright it hurt to look, and the shield shattered in a shower of sparks. Liana struck in the same breath, her spear driving through the commander's chest, his scream echoing as he collapsed. Primitive, huh? Adam muttered, breathing hard. He jammed the disruptor into the console, overriding systems in a storm of static and fire. The heart gem flared once, twice, then the entire ship shuddered violently as alarms blared across every panel. "We've got minutes," he growled, grabbing Liana's arm. They fought their way back through corridors alive with chaos, reaching the docking bay just as the ship's engines flared erratically. The strike team barely made it aboard the transport before the command ship erupted behind them in a spectacular fireball, raining flaming debris across the sky. On the ground, the effect was immediate. The Vix lines collapsed without coordination, their soldiers breaking in panic, some retreating, others cut down by the suddenly surging Navari. The battle that had seemed hopeless hours ago ended in a storm of victory cries as the last raiders fled to the horizon. Adam's transport touched down amid the jubilation, and when he stepped out, battered and grim, Rex barreled into him, barking wildly, Adara clinging to the dog's neck with tears of relief. Liana approached, her armor scorched, her face streaked with blood and ash, but her eyes shone brighter than the heart fire still blazing in the plaza. "You kept your promise," she said simply. Adam met her gaze, his own chest heaving. "I said I would." 2 weeks later, the desert around Adam's cabin had changed. Where once his stone dwelling had stood alone, now Navari tents and growing structures surrounded it, the Starlight clan building anew beside him. The nights were filled with music, with voices rising under the moons. Adam stood on his porch as the sunset bled across the plateau, the bracelet still warm against his wrist. The heart gem seedling Adara had found glowing faintly near the spring, as if the land itself had accepted them. Liana joined him, dressed in simple robes, her silver hair braided with beads that chimed softly in the breeze. "The council has decided," she said, slipping her hand into his. "They name you Heart Friend of the Starlight Clan. No outsider has ever been given this honor." Adam felt the words settle into him like stone, heavy and grounding. He looked out at the tents, the fires, the people, and realized isolation had been shattered forever. Liana's eyes lingered on him, thoughtful, almost searching. "The heart gems resonate with you, Adam. Our scholars believe it is no accident. Perhaps our ancestors once walked together. Perhaps the memory is still alive in your blood." Adam's jaw tightened as he remembered the flashes he'd seen when he touched the gem, the strange faces, the alien words. It wasn't just chance. There was history here, hidden and dangerous, a thread connecting humanity and the Navari in ways neither side fully understood. Liana's voice softened, her hand resting against his chest. "You are one of us now. Whatever truth the gems hold, we will face it together." Adam drew her close, his arm around her waist as Rex barked joyfully at children racing past, Adara holding up the heart gem, seedling like a beacon. For the first time since leaving Earth, Adam felt not exile but belonging. Yet in the glow of the moons and the pulse of the gem against his skin, one truth whispered through him. This was only the beginning. The past was not dead. The gems remembered. And soon, the galaxy would remember too.